Hello again. Welcome back to another edition of The Works. I'm Jim.
I'm Diane.
Sorry, there was a pause because I've been listening to other podcasts and their formats. It's. I guess what we should do is start making up names of people that work on it besides us, because they have these elaborate intros, plus they're sponsored. I mean, we're not sponsored, which maybe I can make that up too, but they bring in their bed of music, which we have, but then there's this outro into an intro of a commercial, which they're sponsored by this, and so it's maddening, because I know we've joked about this, but it seems like everyone's got a podcast.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a podcast of a podcast, making the podcast. Hell, that's a podcast.
Right. Well, we can say we're sponsored by Made in NC hot sauces.
Sure. Yeah, that's... So, okay. So this episode of The Works brought to you by...
Made in NC hot sauces.
And how do they get those?
madeinNC.com.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
We always like to try to do a little catch up from where we were last time. Took a little break. Went on vacation. We can talk about that in a minute. But recent discussion was around loyalty. We were talking about loyalty programs and
the green books and
how tokens were given out.
Initially, the first ones,
turned into stamps or your little punch cards.
Get a free sub club.
Yeah, or your 10th bagel purchase, you got a free one on your or whatever. And now, of course, everything's on that. But my point with that loyalty thing was maybe I could start an underground movement to bring the penny back. Being, of course, the reason that we're dropping the penny's going away. And, of course, I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but it is weird that things are in 5 cents now. I mean, everywhere you go, there's no pennies. And everything is rounded up or down, regardless of if you're paying with cash or not. However, I know we're all upset. I'm upset that they got rid of the penny because, of course, the Nimrod that decided that it was, inefficient. Yes, it costs money to make, but then the nickel, which is now next, costs even more money to make. My point, let's bring the penny or the nickel, if the nickel goes away, we'll bring those back as tokens from the government. So loyalty tokens that have George Washington on the front, a picture of whoever, and I know, what is it, the Washington Memorial on the back of the penny. But the penny we won't call it that, it's a token. And the government could give you a token for all the good things that you do. Like maybe paying your taxes on time, you get a token.
Instead of a smiley sticker or a star.
Sure. And with that token, eventually, there's a sense of, go America, go USA. You're collecting these things because at some point, you turn in 10 tokens and that maybe gets you out of jail. Or, I'm not, again, that's being facetious, but maybe there's some value in that. Hey, instead of a deduction on your taxes, maybe that could be, I don't know, a year early of Social Security. Who knows?
That's a good idea.
Something along those lines, but that we were talking about.
You contribute so many years to Social Security, you get to get Social Security a year early. Or maybe that would incentivize young kids to pay into it.
So yeah, you collect, and maybe you get tokens for doing, bring and there's been talk about bringing the selective service back, bringing the draft back, and a lot of reasons to do it, and a lot of reasons to argue not to do it, but and maybe that's where the loyalty token is handed to you, so that at some point in time
they can apply a certain value to it.
Sure. It's like those stupid savings bonds that cost $12 and they had $25 written on them, but that 25 was only 25 about 40 years later.
Right.
Right. But even still, it incentivized the collection, the savings of, and I don't know. So that was my thought about bringing that back. Of course, I haven't really vetted that out in my own head yet. And the other thing we had recently chatted about was that lawsuit between the boss and the underling,
Oh, at Chase Bank.
Yeah, the cliche, my female boss is sexually harassing me, and
say goodbye to these.
Yeah, which, by the way, she's doing was it Geico commercial?
Yeah.
We were talking about, and I had her name on, I looked her up the other day because she looked like that gal from Arrested Development.
Yeah.
Who's famous for saying, she lifts her shirt up and
says goodbye to these. Yeah. It sounded like her.
Oh, it looks exactly like her. Right. Of course, as you commented, like anyone else these days, is the actor or actress is remembered for their work 10 years ago. For whatever reason, they look younger now than they did 10 years ago. Just, it's not genetics, it's surgery.
Yeah.
But, the lawsuit between the two Chase people, that got settled out of court for $1 million he got because she was sexually harassing him. I remember the classic line there that I thought was hilarious was, he had an Asian wife, and apparently there were some slurs involved, some time with HR. But that's when he had accused her of saying, "Hey, I bet you're a little Asian," and then she took her top off like the gal from Arrested Development. Fishhead wife doesn't have cannons like these.
Cannons. Yeah.
And then lifted her shirt just like the lady. And see, it all ties together. It's all about boobs. But
so he only got $1 million.
He got $1 million. He would have. They'd asked for 20. I guess the issue truly was that it was supposed to never got in the news. I mean, of course, most financial institutions don't want that dirty laundry, and nor do most people really care.
Well, maybe he thought
news cycle.
If he leaked it, then he would get more because they really want to squash it.
Well, but yeah. And recently we also talked about generics. Remember the advent of when the, quote,
beer,
generic label, white box with word on it, cracker, or, whatever else was the generic thing. We were talking about generics recently, and it, and as we were discussing, some generics had some legs to them, like the Hydrox, right? Not an Oreo.
Those weren't generic.
Well, true, but I guess I would consider those
off-brand.
Yeah. But some of the generic things, like vegetables, whether it's, remember the generic turned into the store brand.
Right.
That was the maturation that we learned when we were talking generics. But the one that we all agreed that you can never substitute a Pop-Tart generic with the Pop-Tart. They just don't. That's Pop-Tart.
No.
And now, clever segue, the Pop-Tarts, have we seen the new stuffed?
The extra filling.
It's called stuffed Pop-Tarts. And I'm still upset, even though we got our hands on the chocolate one and the strawberry one.
Mm-hmm.
And they are stuffed. Of course, the funny part is in the other box, or the regular,
you get 2 in a packet.
You get 2 of those really crinkly
cellophane
that
foil,
sound twice as loud at night when you're trying to open it quietly, and they never seem to open easy at night. And it's like, Jesus, I don't know why I'm.
And you might as well eat 2, because by the time you get around to the second, it's going to go stale.
But anyway, the issue with these stuffed Pop-Tarts, it's not an issue, but so you get 1. So there's only 5 sleeves in a box of 1, as opposed to 4 sleeves of 2.
Right, or 3 sleeves of 2.
No, it was
3.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, and there's I noticed there's a YouTube guy that keeps popping up in my feed that he goes around and he'll take products off the shelf. Recently it was a bag of cat food that 12 pounds on it, and he puts it on there, and it was 6. I mean, literally, we've talked about shrinkflation, but and again, I'm sure he's not doing this live. It's, going for the shock value, but pulling things off the shelf that are literally half the weight that they say that they are. So, which, again, back to the whole Pop-Tart thing. So.
Well, Delaney and I were looking in the grocery store. You know how they have zero sugar Oreos?
Yes.
I should have written down what it was, but it's like serving size of 2 Oreos. Like the zero sugar was 90 and the regular sugar was 120.
Oh, so what's the
So,
zero part then? I guess
I don't know.
what did they substitute, the sugar or the?
I don't know, but and then the double stuff, there was only like 20 calorie difference between the zero sugar double stuff and a regular double stuff. It's like, what's the point? I mean, if people aren't going to read the nutrition label, they're going to be like, well, I can eat a whole damn sleeve of zeros, and it didn't buy you anything. I mean, what's 20 calories amongst friends and cookies?
Yeah,
I don't know.
you wonder.
But you feel better because it's zero sugar. I can have twice as many.
Okay, well, it dawned on me. I mean, we talked about this a while ago. That the government admitted or has changed the notion of the food pyramid. It's upside down now.
Right.
So I wonder if all these years later, are we calculating calories correctly? The general rule is it's 9 calories for a fat gram, 4 for a protein gram, and a fiber cancels a carb. All that Weight Watchers and whatever BS that, when you start looking at labels. But I wonder if we come to find out, and I'm sure it's true for, again, you just look at the genetics of others, and some are blessed and some aren't blessed. And, those 9 calories might affect somebody to a multiplier of 10 versus somebody who that 9 calories is 9 calories.
True. Because, serving size, I'm eating the serving size. So I guess that does multiply if you eat a whole sleeve. You end up saving quite.
Well, what I know, but what I'm saying is that the notion of maybe that gram that equates to 9 calories of, whether it's fat, protein. So 1 unit equals X number of calories. That might be, for some of us, a lot less or a lot more. So you take just the unit itself, and maybe it's like the grading curve. Thank God for the grading curve. You wouldn't have that, right? But and maybe that same notion applies. I mean, because not all humans are alike. Anyway, I don't mean to get off on that topic.
But yeah, I thought that was fun.
Well, and then that just reminded me of, we started watching a series about CEOs of companies. It's HBO Max, Cinema, whatever it's called. I couldn't stand. I couldn't get through it because it's a lot of this, monologue diatribe from an actor about this minute, just going on and on and on. And of course, unless it's funny for me, and it doesn't capture my interest. I hate to be that way, but one thing that floored me, which is a great line. Again, this ties into the whole calorie thing, because the mom was upset with the daughter who was eating a lemon square, and she took a second lemon square, and her comment was, "The second bite tastes just like the first. There's no reason to have 2." That's brilliant. I mean, because remember, we grew up with the Weight Watchers cliche, a lifetime on the lips. No, a moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips.
And that's not going to taste as good as skinny feels.
Yeah.
But the second one's going to taste just as good as the first.
Yeah, she's yelling. I mean, just, again, this classic dysfunctional family. And the girl didn't have a weight issue. Mm-mm. Mom was just being a psycho, and she caught her daughter eating a second lemon square, and and it's true if you think about it. Second bite, and I will argue though that doesn't occur with ginger snaps. Ginger snaps first bite is off-putting, but once you get that in your mouth, they taste, to me, they're a bit harsh. I'm not a big ginger snap fan, but thank God I just powered through that. So we took some time off, and we went to the beach. And I guess just to make this topical, CNN recently announced top beaches for 2026.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, they're all Hawaii 1, Panama City 2, Clearwater, Florida, another. Okay. So Kauai in Hawaii is number 1. Panama City, it's called the St. Andrews State Park in Panama City, is number 2. Another island state park in Clearwater, Florida is 3. Wahalea Beach in Maui is number 4. Main Beach in East Hampton, New York.
Oh, okay.
So it's not all just Florida and Hawaii. So there's another Wiggins State Pass Park in Naples, Florida is 6. Shout out to the Carolinas. Beachwalker Park in Kiowa Island, South Carolina, 7.
Hmm.
And then the Big Island on Hawaii is 8. Another one on Hawaii is 9. And the Coast Guard Beach in Cape Cod, Massachusetts is number 10. Again, you ask yourself, what are the criteria for people saying,
right?
And honestly, I don't think anyone can afford to go to Hawaii anymore.
Right.
Not
right.
with the way.
Well, and part of it matters too. If there's a location that your family has always gone, it's instantly going to be your favorite. It's going to be happy because it's built many memories there. And it might be a shithole, pardon the language, but if that's where you've always gone, then that it has warm memories. And we used to always go to, with our kids as a family, to the Myrtle Beach area, and we just recently discovered Oak Island, and it's a nice change of pace. I mean, Myrtle is busy, kitschy. When you have little kids, it's nice because there are a gazillion things to do. But it's nice getting the beach experience, but they don't make beach houses like they used to.
Well, I'm sure
They're all these fancy ones now.
Well, I mean, times of, we talked about this once before too. The concept of the timeshare, and now that concept has really, I think, been dwarfed by Airbnb and all of these massive real estate organized companies that will
buy a gazillion houses,
or make a deal with the owner and say, hey, look, we could rent this out and pay for your mortgage, if you just rent it out 3 months out of the year. And in all honesty, part of the appeal, I think, you close your eyes when you visit these places and it's like, shit, I love to have that kind of money. And I certainly love the environment. Could I be here all year? And of course, the first thing you think is, I can't be here with all the tourists.
Right.
And so that almost
why would you want to buy there?
Yeah, it almost automatically qualifies you to put your own place up. But it's interesting how a very cliche sort of Myrtle Beach, when you think of a beach, Atlantic City, Myrtle Beach, I mean, with all the touristy trap things, you miss it, but at the same time, because we spent every year, sometimes 2 and 3 times a year there for the last 15 years, and decided to kind of go a little bit quieter, and that almost brings back some of those. I kind of wish that we were in North Myrtle and some of the luxuries of, because when you're on Oak Island, much like we had debated doing with the Outer Banks, because you had experiences there, you got 1, 2 maybe grocery stores. You
right.
have 1, maybe 2 pizza places. You have 1, maybe 2 fish places. And I hate to say, most of them suck.
Yeah.
And so, and yes, of course, you're on vacation. You think to yourself, you've got these really nice kitchens we're going to cook. Well, hell, you don't. I mean,
well, what I ran into is that, and I do like to cook, especially at home. And I don't mind cooking on vacation because sometimes the restaurants that you hit, it's hit or miss. I mean, you're paying for the convenience of being out. It isn't always better than what you could make. But cooking in these nice fancy kitchens is that you don't have your arsenal of spices. So, I mean, what truly, you can't get into anything fancy, so why have the fancy kitchen? Back in the day when we used to go to Nag's Head, specifically Duck, North Carolina, when I was a child, it was a rudimentary kitchen, and the floors were, the not finished wood floors. They were, plank floors, because you get sand everywhere. The bathrooms were functional. They weren't these fancy things, and I don't know. I kind of miss the old school where you're not messing anything up and you're truly not cooking, but the prices that they charge nowadays, you kind of expect it to be bougie. You want that luxury bathroom now.
Well, I think in a lot of cases, all these places have experienced hurricanes and or other weather events that.
Right. I guess if you're going to build it back, you might as well build it back better.
Well, they created codes.
Right.
Right. So the building codes, unfortunately, then preclude the fact that insurance companies aren't going to touch anymore. But then you have to have homeowners insurance in order to get a mortgage. You can't have a mortgage without homeowners. And so what do? And then, not to get into that whole discussion about the state-run property, homeowners, because, commercial insurance just refuses to insure these homes, which now have, standards of, you could jettison a 2x4 at 110 miles an hour at a window and it will not break. It's amazing the way they've built things, but then it's the little thing. It's one thing for 8 hours of sustained wind and your house still being there. It's the things that you don't account for that cause the problem. The power outage for 2 weeks,
right.
Or the inability to get water, to recede, quickly, because then rot and all that other stuff starts to set in. It's just.
So do you think some of these beach rental places that are corporate owned, do you think they self-insure? Especially because like Oak Island's a barrier island.
I don't. That's
did they self-insure?
Well, if you're paying for cash, then obviously you don't have the same requirements underwriting. So if you pay for cash and you don't want to insure it, you don't have to. It's not like a car, right? There's no liability of you driving your house around.
Right.
And so, yes, maybe to a certain degree, and maybe this explains why it never fails. It seems like, especially going to, again, some of these out, I would say barrier islands. That's not the right definition, but things that are right on the water, and unlike Myrtle, which is mostly commercial, those major hotels or major, there are certainly homes that are waterfront in Myrtle and North Myrtle, no question. But like Oak Island, that entire island is
below
nothing.
Sea level.
It's not only below sea level, but it's completely individual homes. But I hate to say in this case, it's individual homes that all fall under the auspices of one or two beach rental properties.
Right.
And
and they're priced ridiculous. That's why you can't afford to own there.
Well, you play you play the calendar and you look just before Memorial Day and just after Labor Day. Guess what? Those are their best rates. And so, yes, I put the cheap in a vacation, but it makes a huge. You get more for your money. That's I hate maybe put it that way. It's not like I'm being cheap. It's just that your duration and what you can tolerate. You can have a little bit more luxury, but my pet peeve now is that these places, they all have their smart TVs.
Yeah.
And these quote smart TVs
with a Roku
or whatever streaming device. The bitch of it is okay. So they're set up in a way that you could log out of every service. Problem that I have though is in most cases you're not logging. Whoever was in there previously didn't log out. Not that I can't log out for them, but I want to be able, when I take my paid Spectrum subscription elsewhere,
right?
I am not going to get my home television network DMA set of programming. I'm going to get the location that physical unit's in, but I will be blocked from all the local channels because I don't own them in my subscription. And so, and it drives me nuts because the one thing you want to do on vacation is at least watch local news. We happened to be down there again, and we drove into Myrtle. Oak Island's about an hour away, and it was bike week. And there's always a bunch of fun stories about what stupid bikers are doing, and yet you can't watch local television, the old-fashioned way with the rabbit ears, but you can't even stream it, right? Because these these damn smart TVs are all, and they're not sensitive to. I just want local
broadcast. Yeah.
That's absolutely annoying. And then the other thing that kind of is annoying is that they all have these smart doorknobs now that you have to remember some 6, 8, 4-digit code. It'd be nice just to have a key.
Yeah.
Or a fob. I'll even take a little key fob that I can just swipe over.
Yeah.
Just like at the hotel.
Why
but
not?
no, I have to remember another 6-digit code.
639034. But it took me forever to remember that. We always had to leave
that
with a phone.
That number has meaning to the people there, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. But, yeah.
And the other thing, we were talking about if you would own down there, you get tired of the tourists. I felt badly for our neighbors. Well, first I was annoyed because each time I went on the back deck or to the pool, the damn neighbor's dog is barking at me. I'm like, I didn't come on vacation to be barked at every day. And then I thought, well, that kind of sucks for those homeowners that the house next door is being rented and the dog is losing his mind every day. Well, and he's doing his job.
Yeah. We did learn about that a little bit from some of the locals that they're starting to set moratoriums on how many of these properties that locals can have that then can rent them out. Even when we were in Columbus, it's becoming, we might have hit saturation in the, Airbnb, Vrbo marketplace just because the locals are upset with the fact that you have 3 homes in a neighborhood of 10 that you have riffraff. And I'm not, what ends up happening in more cases than not, it's 3 or 4 families that truly are taking advantage of the thing that says it sleeps 12. They're going to bring 12 people in because it makes it cheaper. Right. So that's where, hell, think about it from a spring break perspective. Can you imagine the luxury homes that you have? We've seen them. I mean, they're absolutely gorgeous. But
packed full of people.
Right. But it's for a family that has 1, 2 maybe incomes. When you have 15 people chipping in money, you can afford that $6,000 place. And I can see if you live down there, you'd be upset by that that you're constantly having neighbor issues.
Right. Well, and that poor dog, he's doing his job protecting his property, and it's new people every week, so he never gets used to whoever's next door, and he doesn't want to be a bad dog. He doesn't want to bark all day. But yeah, I started to get a little cranky pants when he was barking at me every day. That's like, how do you alleviate that? How do you talk to the neighbors and say, hey, the first day there, is there a way that would set your dog to be at ease? First day, if I come over and I have some dog cookies, would that make him not lose his mind every day? Because you'd hate to yell at your dog every day for barking.
Yeah, back to, and the fact that you mentioned that you want to cook, and I've said this recently that I've said it several times. When you're starting to build and not that we all want to be handy people around the house. We want to be able to fix things, and the fact that there's not, years ago you do, the few times that my father would try to fix things, he had a drill. A couple of back then it was all electric, and my favorite thing was that the drills back then you had to have a tool to take a drill bit in and out, and typically they called it a chuck, and that chuck was always missing. And of course, someone is probably worth $1 million figured out how to make a chuckless set of drills and other utility tools that you don't need you twist one way, you can put it in, you tighten it. That used to have to be done with some sort of gear mechanism that
I had
inevitably.
No idea.
Oh, well, yeah. And my point here is that some bitchin' thing was always lost. So you could never, when you found the drill bit that you wanted, we got to find the chuck to take it out, and then you had to unscrew it. It's kind of it's like those IKEA furniture builds
with
that
a
have
little
that
Allen wrench.
Well, I know, but it's it's a metric Allen wrench,
yeah.
right? And it's it's shaped funny, and there's that other tool that's a wrenchy sort of screwdriver sort of tool that's magical, and if you don't have it, you can't build it. Well, that's the same thing with the tools of the day. My point here is that they sold, and at least I thought they did, or at least that's what I remember. You always had that little drawer thing that was 100 drawers, and each drawer had, it wasn't organized, but it had all different kinds of heads, sizes of screws and nails and bolts, and And you can't buy them that way. Right now, when you go to Lowe's, you have to know the size. I mean, and they have an entire aisle dedicated to nuts and bolts and, fasteners and shit. But when you're buying them in, containers of 5, 10, 20. I want a variety pack, for Christ's sake.
I just need one. I don't need 50.
Of course, and that probably makes it sound like any sort of project I have, is a conglomeration of 3 different nuts and screws and, 2 Phillips, 1 straight, and another one hex. No, I mean, but my point is that sometimes it's nice to have this. And that made me think about the idea of grocery stores, if they sold a sample pack of the basic spices, they could make a fortune doing
just
that.
The little tiny,
because you end up
the little tiny Ziploc bags that, here's your Italian little starter kit.
And so I buy aluminum foil. Here's a new find. So I buy aluminum foil while I'm down there, and I swear to God, the aluminum foil has gotten thinner. I don't know how that's possible, and I am not one to buy generic aluminum foil. So Reynolds Wrap explained to me how it now is twice as loud and half as thin as it used to be. It's like the regular one. You have to get the heavy-duty one. The heavy-duty one feels like the old aluminum foil. But anyway, and aluminum foil, much to my chagrin, $16 for a thing of aluminum foil? Oh, my God. And then, of course, what do? You end up leaving it back.
Yeah. That killed me today. Going to look for it today, and yeah. But just so many things. Clothing is the least amount of things that you end up bringing on vacation. I mean, because these beach houses, you got to bring
and dryers, which that's kind of convenient.
Laundry detergent and dryer sheets, okay, and then dish soap. You need to bring foil and Saran wrap because that's helpful. You need to have Ziploc bags.
Well, you need to bring your home brand of toilet paper. Because let's face it, you're when you discover the one ply or the fact that you're poking through your finger, and the next thing you know, you're not wiping, but you're sticking.
Yeah.
There's nothing more
you
non-vacation-y
than
trying to take your stinky finger to the sink while your pants are halfway down your ankles, and
that's not fun.
You got to take your own toilet paper because that's what you're used to.
Yeah.
It's not that you're purposely. It's the percentage of force that you're using. Right. You're used to that with your home toilet paper, the paper that no one seems. Well, I mean, isn't that the case if you're renting your place? I'm sure you don't leave back your good toilet paper.
Right. But so, you need to pack the toilet paper. You need to pack your shampoo and conditioner and toiletries, cooking spray. Because if you're going to cook anything, you need your cooking spray.
Why have microwaves gotten so complicated?
I don't know.
It's not like and whether it's the combination of time, power, go, or power, time, I swear to God, it's different each time. And then now the twist, and of course, maybe this is the first time I bought one of those breakfast sandwich things that, I was bored, read the instructions, and I had never seen anything before say you need to, if cooked from frozen, defrost first, which of course there's a defrost set
button. Yeah.
Well, but it's not just it's a defrost what? An item, weight, the thing. It's just for
so
Christ's sake.
And
I'd really like to know from a scientist about microwaves, is that really doing anything different? Because I'm convinced that it's not. And then I got clever on the second day because I had a box of them. I got clever on the second day and took the biscuits off, took the piece. Everything's frozen, right? So I took all individual parts out, and I said, well, which one's going to take the longest? I thought the little patty of meat and the little thing of cheese and the little egg would take the longest. So I took those apart and put those on and did those first. And then I put the cheese on that, and then I put the biscuit on that, and that seemed to work out. But at that point, I might as well just cooked it fresh.
Right.
It's overcome. Jesus, I've taken the convenience out of convenient food just to warm it up, for God's sake. Because there's nothing worse than biting into something, and it's typical microwave.
It's hot on one side and still frozen on the other.
That I don't get. And then the fact that, there's just 9,000 buttons, and my favorite thing is the whole, and I think we grew up in this generation that, and I think I did read this, but you're not supposed to cover your food. The reason that by default we cover it, because you don't want to, it splatters. It's a mess. But they say, or at least what I thought I read, was that for the auto sensing thing to work,
it can't be covered.
Right. Well, yeah, it has to.
I don't trust those auto sensors. I don't know.
Because it's from China? I don't know. No, I just
don't think it. And it never cooks evenly. So I don't know. Not a big fan, but yeah.
Well, microwaves, even the rotating part of it, which there was a rotating tray in there, and I swear to God, for the life of me.
And it didn't rotate.
Well, and I spent 20 minutes trying to fix that.
I think the tray must have broken. They put another one on that didn't fit. I don't know.
Well, I didn't see the underside mechanism even turning, but...
Yeah. Yeah, so as much as I love vacation, I like my creature comforts of home. And just, like I said, there's so many things you need to bring on vacation. I mean, it's just, and your beach towels and your beach chairs if you're going to bring chairs.
Like I said, that's another issue. Well,
then we got to bring the bed topper because, we're old. We don't.
No, I'm the one that was, okay, let's face it. And one of our favorite YouTubers, Holdernesses, they did a video about a music short, that there's nothing worse than getting to a hotel and the bed is not what you want it to be. And of course, if you don't get a good night's sleep, then that's the core to a vacation, right?
Right.
And let's face it, the first night's always a crapshoot because it's a different bed.
Right.
And for some reason, and it's orientation for me, but I think I know what side I'm supposed to be on, but you and I go through this shit all the time. It's like, what side do you want? I go, what do you mean? I take my side,
Right. Duh.
Well, yeah, my side. But then it's still, you look at the bed, which of course maybe is oriented head at south versus head here at east.
Right.
I don't, but yeah, if the bed, yeah, so our remedy to this years ago was to we bought a topper, a
3-inch, 4-inch topper.
Which is, again, granted, it's not the same as your mattress at home, but it's at least better than the shit that you end up, paying hundreds of dollars a night for. Of course, the worst part of that is, some beds are decent, but then it's the frame that makes all the noise when you're moving.
Right. If it's a spring mattress versus part memory foam.
Yeah. But then, of course, I hate to point out that, so the idea of a foam topper is, it's beautiful when you first get it. It's in a nice box. Fits nicely in your car.
Vacuum sealed. Mm-hmm.
Fits nicely in the car. Well, ours doesn't. I have to jam it in the backseat of a Corolla. That's why we end up taking more than one car. And God forbid, thank God this state, and I noticed this a couple of years ago, but the tint, we pay an extra 40% on our vehicle taxes because it's more heavily tinted, the back.
But you couldn't see that it was blocking.
You couldn't, thank God you couldn't see, because this certainly would have gotten pulled over because, I was using my mirrors for, looking through the back. But that's an interesting side note, is that here in the Carolinas, you get away with heavier tint because of the sun.
Right.
Doesn't warm up your car as much. But yeah, and you can't see in the back seat, the back part of our cars, you cannot see in.
Right.
I know up north that's a no. You can't do that. But
yeah, bringing the topper down, that fills up the back seat where,
Well, and it's not like, okay, they don't fold up, they're foam, for God's sake, right? And so I guess it would be comical, and we need to do this more. Some as a visual media now that we're on YouTube. And I noticed Netflix now has freaking podcasts.
Yeah.
Last time I looked at my Netflix bill, it's $30
And
Jesus,
And again, when it's on Netflix and it's video, isn't it a video? That's not a podcast.
But it's two people sitting
talking
by some ferns
with headphones on
and having a conversation. But having that medium would give us more opportunities for some of these visual things, because let's face it, you can only paint the verbal picture the best you can. It sometimes helps that, picture's worth 1,000 words.
The physical comedy of it.
Well, watching me try to jam a king-size topper in the backseat of a is kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's irritating when it doesn't go in right.
Or when I say, goodbye to these.
Yeah.
Ay.
No, so beaches. That's the other thing that I've noticed significant difference between Myrtle and Oak Island, and I'm sure the Outer Banks same way is, and I think I've this last trip to the to Oak Island, I finally realized that more on the inland waterway side,
tons of crabs.
And they're irritating, and they're irritated that you're even there watching them. They do that thing with their left arm, or what? As a matter of fact, it's left or right. The bigger claw is the thing that
up in the air,
and they're waving it at you. But one claw is the bigger one, and that's the one that digs the hole that they come out of. But that's the one that is the one that's sticking out of the hole, if you will. That's, they their life is all sideways.
It gives me the heebie-jeebies.
There's crabs everywhere, and people are, and I didn't know they were eating crabs. I guess a crab is a crab.
I get it, certain size, yeah. I mean, some of these were really tiny, and there was a sign that says no crabbing, and yet we look underneath the little waterway, and somebody had a crab pot.
Yeah,
and there were 3 crabs in it. It's like, okay, but I mean, that would be cool to just go out your back deck and toss something in.
Well, sure. That's like the Alaska bush people.
Yeah.
When they wanted to eat, they just pounded a salmon out of the water.
No, it was interesting because the water was going one direction at low tide and the other direction at high tide. And the current.
Yeah. The inland waterway is a fascinating bit of history and how, the U.S. created, in essence, what is kind of like a
highway for boats.
And a secret. It's inland.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they literally cut out from Maryland to Florida. You can go with your boat
all the way.
A decent sized boat. Now, some places you got to be careful. It's a little more shallow than others, but it can take you without having to navigate and deal with the ocean.
Yeah.
Meaning there's no huge waves. There's no,
and it's
sandbars and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty consistent, but it's amazing. The inland waterway is so, it's fast when the tide's going in, when it's going out. Yeah. But yeah, it's the beaches are different depending on where you go, and I do think, sadly, the one piece of evidence that global warming is truly happening is that if you look at the average temperature at this time of the year over the last 20 years, how it has gone up a significant amount. It's not this time of the year, you wouldn't expect the ocean 20 years ago to be 72. 72, that's pretty warm.
For May.
For, later part of May, early June. And that's alarming that we're getting to the point where, it's like, it's not bathwater, but I know when we're down there in August, September, October, and the ocean itself is 80.
Yeah.
That's tremendous. We're not that far off, and that's alarming. It's concerning that to me is some of the real evidence that things are changing. But
that and the some of the houses, the beach area. I'd hate to rent one of these homes that's directly on the beach and realize that at high tide you have no beach area left. It's just dune.
Yeah, and again, is it a function of that we all want waterfront, and we're going to do
and they
everything,
build too close,
and they spend, Oak Island in particular spends a lot of money
to restore the beaches,
and dredging sand, bringing it up, and that's the reality of this side of the Atlantic, is that you're getting waves that are constantly tearing up and bringing. That's why the water's different than in the Gulf, right?
Right.
I mean, it's gorgeous and blue in the Gulf, but that's not there. You don't have
the huge waves,
and exactly nothing constantly. Oak Island and is hammered constant. It seems like there's 1-2 foot waves almost all the time. We were down there for king tide too, and the inundation. To your point, it's when you're talking about a 6 foot difference between high and low tide, that doesn't sound like a lot, but when the actual beach frontage is only 7 feet, that's significant. You're up to the dunes now, and so it's like, do you think they realized they were doing this by dredging? I mean, is that not also part of the we think we're smarter than Mother Nature, but
right.
It doesn't seem to work that way.
Well, and the fact that some of these, like especially in Myrtle Beach, the hotels, they comb the beach because nobody wants rocks and broken shells, so they comb the beach. And no wonder the beach is being eroded because you're getting rid of all the things that create new sand. You're scraping all the shells away. It's stupid.
Yeah. And I don't know what for the life of me bites me every time I go to the beach, but
you're just riddled with bites. The sand fleas, or
I don't know. Maybe it's herpes. I don't know.
It's a syphilis tsunami.
Yes. Well, until next time, this is Jim.
I'm Diane.
And you've been listening to another episode of The Works.
Bye.